So good evening. It is now 6 p.m. Wednesday, June 19th. I hereby call this meeting to order. Notice of this meeting was posted in a manner required by law at 5 p.m. June 13th. The Board of Trustees of LaPorte Independent School District will now convene. At LaPorte ISD, Board of Trustees, every student's success is our number one priority. We are here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success of the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. However, audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting, and board members may not respond to those comments made in the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. At this time, will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. If we'll remain standing for the invocation, Mr. Martin.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this chance to come together tonight, share in fellowship, and we ask that you just give us abundance of wisdom, discernment, as we work to the finances of our district, Father God. We thank you for each and every family, every student, individual that's represented, every teacher, staff member that's represented in this district. We ask that they have a blessed, restful summer, that you just continue to watch over us, provide us with hedge protection now and always. In Jesus' name.
Amen. You now may be seated. We'll now hear public comment. The board will now hear those who wish to make comment and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance to the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and/or concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Mr. Martin, do we have any registered speakers?
Mr. President, we have 3 tonight. Before I introduce them, how would you like them to address us? You want them to stand front?
Yeah, just come up front.
Okay, if we call your name, would you please step to the front? We first visitor is Ms. Karina Bullock. She's here to speak on mathematics training for teachers using funds from general fund.
Should she use this microphone, Doc?
It should pick you up. It should pick her up because,
I have a heavy voice.
Jax.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Dr. Karina Bullock, and I am a Texas Education Policy Institute Fellow here tonight on an assignment. First, I applaud and extend a hearty thank you to this board for caring about all the district stakeholders. Despite the state withholding funds as you all continue to solidify the District 2024-2025 budget, thank you for using your ingenuity and thoughtfulness to consider a 3% salary increase for all employees and retaining your interventionists who were previously funded with ESSER funds. Thank you. As you continue to work on adopting budget expenditures pertaining to the general funds, please consider setting some funds aside for staff development. I stand before you with 38 years of experience as an educator with a proven track record of success in mathematics achievement on both state and standardized testing with my students. When we look at the scores and we think, oh, our kids did well, but when they only have to answer half the questions just to pass the test, how well did they do? I look at raw scores. And in my years of teaching, my students always, whatever, if it were 100 questions, they were going to get 95 out of the 100 questions correct. And they understood the assignment and they knew how to apply. So, I am not just talking about staff development, but those teacher trainings that will move all our scholars to mastery on the STAR test and secure scores at the highest percentile range on math or any standardized tests, specifically in mathematics. You might ask yourself, how can our district make that kind of progress? Well, in Texas, it has been tabooed and against the state law to use it. And yet, the Organization for Economic, I'm going to raise this up so I can see a little better if you don't mind. And yet, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, a world organization comprising 34 democracies with free market economies working with one another, as well as with more than 70 non-member economies to promote economic growth, prosperity, and sustainable development, takes a stance on mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy is an individual's capacity to formulate, employ, and interpret mathematics in a variety of contexts. It includes reasoning mathematically and using mathematical concepts, procedures, facts, and tools to describe, explain, and predict phenomena. It assists individuals in recognizing the role that mathematics plays in the world and to make the world well-rounded judgments and decisions needed by constructive, engaged, and reflective citizens. This bad word, or this tabooed word we cannot use in Texas, is the Common Core State Standards, created to ensure our students are able to compete in today's global society. Now, I'm not standing here to say break the law. I'm not asking you to break that law. I am not here this evening asking you to break the law. However, per Joy Baskin, Director of Legal Services for the Texas Association of School Boards, says teachers can use Common Core instructional materials. And I found that article in the Austin American Statesman. I am requesting you to provide mathematics training to teachers in using the instructional materials as it pertains to our TEKS curriculum. You see, mathematics is a building block. And by using the Common Core instructional materials, it might expose teachers to some prerequisite skills students need to strengthen foundational skills that are needed to be successful on mathematics STAR assessments. STAR assessments do not have to be a moving target when TEKS are enhanced using Common Core instructional materials. Thank you for allowing me to take the time to speak to you on behalf of our teachers and students. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our second guest is Mrs. Gina Zenor, speaking on finance.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just here to ask, and I just want you guys to ponder a question. Where is the money? Now, my name is Gina Zenor, and I am also a TPI Fellow, which is the Texas Education Policy Institute. And I'm standing before you this evening in regards to school finances and alternative ways of funding our schools. Now, we all know about that big bad bear, school finances, and the decreasing of our funds, which is riding our backs, and it's a burden for almost every stakeholder who is a part of educating in the public school districts. Now, we want to be able to lighten that load of school finances, so I want to just present to you one avenue that we could do that. Now, I asked of LaPorte's board to consider the pathway of grant funding through more community members, corporate sponsors, and philanthropic and benevolent organizations. I believe by pleading our cause to these entities, we would be able to get more school funding through these pathways And this will be one avenue that LaPorte can either close or lower the deficits in our school budgets. Looking at LaPorte's use of grant funding already, I want to applaud the district for securing the next year the Region 4, the Reading Academies. As a veteran educator of 25 years, I know we must build upon the strengths of that Tier 1 instruction in reading. Now, I also know that the first line of instruction must be strong in order to achieve optimum student outcomes. Our teachers must also be given the proper training in order to deliver the best reading instruction, which would not only grow readers, but also allow students to be learners of math, science, and social studies content. Secondly, given our recent outcomes across the state for the STAR, we know the trend in math is down, and we must level up the instruction. And again, I want to applaud Porte ISD for securing that the LASSO, which is the Learning Acceleration Support Organization grant, which is going to help build strong foundations in math. Also, the Resilient Schools Support Program grant that addresses early detection of the academic data in order to address those needs based on the data. This program will also allow support in small group instruction for math intervention for grades 6 through 8, and will also help in redirecting those truants to hope to move them upward in student outcomes for LaPorte ISD. Thirdly, I want to commend the LaPorte's Education Foundation, which is doing a wonderful job in which they raised over $101,000 through their Dollar Patrol last fall. And I like that name, Dollar Patrol, looking for the money. And so through this campaign, the LaPorte ISD classrooms, many of them will have resources to support their instruction. The programs I have just mentioned are just some of the examples of what can be done through grant funding. As I end my appeal to you this evening, LaPorte ISD, let's just keep looking for that money. We must be creative, innovative, and looking for all type of alternative pathways and how we can solicit grant funding to support this wonderful school district. In the area of academics, extracurricular programming, and other initiatives, such as maybe your homeless and foster care students, there is a need to look for funding in these areas as well, and resources, so that we can ensure that this population of students, along with all the other populations in this district, are being educated and supported in their goals of graduation. If educating our students is the goal, let us have a plan and a campaign in place to appeal to more community members, corporations, stumbling over that word, philanthropic and benevolent organizations in helping us educate the children of LaPorte ISD. And I thank you for listening to me and your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our third guest this evening is Mr. Chuck Cruz. He is also speaking on school funding and budget.
Howdy, y'all. Greetings to the members of the LaPorte ISD School Board and community members in the audience. My name is Chuck Cruz, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Texas House of Representatives, District 128. I'm a proud Texas Aggie, having earned a degree from Texas A&M in chemical engineering in 2005. After graduation, I began my professional career right up the road in Baytown as a reliability engineer. In less than 2 decades, I was able to retire from the petrochemical industry, largely due to the public education I received from the largest institution of public education in the United States of America. I say all this not to brag, but to establish myself as a beneficiary of, a supporter of, and most importantly, as a defender of public education in the state of Texas. I come before you today to inform you of a grave danger facing public education in Texas: Governor Greg Abbott and the Republican Party of Texas. As the Texas legislature is a major source of funding for Texas schools, I presume you are aware of what happened in Austin last year. For those who may need a quick recap, After the conclusion of the 88th regular legislative session in May of 2023, Governor Abbott proceeded to call an unprecedented 4 special sessions at a cost of millions of taxpayer dollars, each one of those special sessions designed specifically to cut public education funding in Texas. The first 2 charges were to cut taxes, which would fund public schools, and the second 2 sessions were to pass school voucher scams, to steal public tax dollars to give to private schools. Now, in 2024, while the state of Texas sits on the largest budget surplus in history, public school funding in Texas ranks 43rd out of 50. Almost dead last. That is pathetic. At a time when many Texas public schools are facing massive budget shortfalls due to underfunding, Governor Abbott seeks to steal money from public schools to give to private schools. Schools with unelected boards, schools which pick their students. For that is what school choice means. Schools choose students. Not taxpayers, not students, and certainly not parents. Private schools choose which students to accept and what they will teach, with zero accountability to the taxpayers of the state of Texas. As LaPorte ISD board members, you were elected to serve the parents, students, teachers, administrators, staff, and all residents of LaPorte ISD. While you cannot affect state funding, you can and should support candidates who support public education. In January of 2025, the Texas Legislature will begin the 89th regular session, and funding for public education in Texas will again be debated. If reelected, HD 128 incumbent Representative Kane will continue to cut state funding for public schools. I seek your support in my campaign for Texas House 128 so that I may work to ensure LaPorte ISD and every school in Texas is given adequate funding, specifically so that here in LaPorte, you will have the resources you need to truly build a legacy of excellence. My website is Crews, CREWSFORTX.org. Thank you for your time.
President, that is our 3 speakers tonight.
Thank you to all our speakers. Obviously, we cannot comment on your commentary, but we do appreciate your commitment to speak to us tonight. And I know this weather is less than inviting, and I appreciate you coming out and sharing your thoughts. So thank you very much. With that said, we will move to item 4 of our agenda, the budget planning, and we'll start that off with Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, board and members of the community. We're approaching the final stages of our crucial discussions on the budget for fiscal year 2025, a process that has been ongoing for the past few months. We have had several meetings over the past few months to discuss our priorities and our challenges, and tonight we will address one final area of that, the district compensation plan. Some documents are provided at your tables to help facilitate this discussion, and we want the board to share your wishes with us, administration, and we will do our absolute best to respond to your questions and your concerns tonight. Following your direction tonight, board, our team will immediately begin incorporating the decisions made into the budget at the start of the business day tomorrow. Our next scheduled meeting is Monday, June 24th at 6 p.m. It is solely dedicated to a public hearing and the full adoption of next year's budget. This is a crucial step in our budget planning process. I want the board and I want the committee and I want the community to hear 3 final comments from the superintendent tonight about the budget. Number 1, the district's budget is a living document as it can be amended as often as the board sees fit and as circumstances cause us to pivot when necessary. Number 2, the district's budget tells the story of the district's priorities, such as staffing, programs, instruction, transportation, nutrition, student success, etc. Lastly, the district budget forces us to make very hard decisions on what to keep, what may need to wait, and what will get the attention. Unfortunately, everything cannot get equal attention when working with a budget with a set amount of dollars. Our CFO, Stacey McDowell, and team will work to answer your questions tonight, as we've already said. And will now, if it's your wishes, board and Mr. President, we will turn it over to our CFO, Stacy McDowell.
Sounds good. Before, Stacy, you go ahead. I just want to, thank you for those comments, and the diligence, that you've devoted to this so far to get us where we're at. I know that the board has been fast and furious with questions, and I applaud that effort as well. As stated in our last open meeting, we want to make sure we get this right, and I just applaud everybody's patience and diligence to see that we do so. So, again, this is a very fluid meeting. It's organic, and I want everybody to participate, and please do not hold back any questions. And remember, point one that Dr. Jackson just mentioned, this is a living document and it may be amended at any time. So if we don't hit those points today, we need to make sure that we list our priorities and come to a consensus by that vote on Monday. So,
Okay, good evening. Again, thank you all so much for being here tonight. As Dr. Jackson discussed, we are really going to focus in on the compensation plan. Again, just as President Hanks said, thank you so much for sending me whatever, and to Dr. Jackson, to any questions prior, so we can be prepared and able to give you the information that you need. Before we dive into the packet that I have there in front of you, is there anything specific right now that you want to discuss, or would you like to move forward and discuss what's in the packet?
you want to wait till you get up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so if you open up your red folder here, the first page are some of the questions, or the list of questions that we did receive from the board with the answers. The second page is our new teacher hiring pay scale, which we'll take a moment afterwards and go through this. And then you will have the draft compensation plan, and then finally in the packet is our proposed budget, which was given to you last Tuesday. That has not changed. It's still the same as it is. So I'm over. You want to discuss this? Okay, so the first...
Read those questions that they were answering like
Okay,
that.
yes, sir. So the first question that was given to us is, what would the financial impact be to increase the stipends for master's degree and doctorate degrees by $500? Because right now it's $1,000 and $2,000, correct? $1,000 for master's and $2,000 for doctorate. Oh, I'm sorry, it's $1,000 and then $1,000 additional, so equaled up to $2,000 total for doctorates. So we have 107 employees that have a master's degree that is associated with their job. So it's not every person that has a master's degree receives that amount if it's is used for their job. And then we have 4 employees that have a doctorate. So times 500, that's $55,500 if we increased it up. We have looked at this compared to other districts surrounding us, and we are very comparable in that amount. The second question is, in our current amount.
And give them a minute to
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Is there anything that you want to discuss
Questions
on
about
that?
that? Questions, concerns?
When was the
observations?
last time that this was adjusted? Does anyone know?
It's been quite some time, but we always look at other districts to see if we're competitive. There's some districts that don't give a stipend for doctorate. Some districts, I think we pulled that data last year for us, are either right on target with us or maybe about $500 on the master's. Again, some districts don't do anything for the doctorate because this is just for teachers.
Right.
I
So
thought
if
the
there-
cost was a lot more last year. Remember, wasn't it over $100,000 when we asked last year? Was the same one?
It could have been a different dollar amount, because I believe last year it was, you were asking for 1,000. This is asking for 500.
Well, and I think I'll add, and I think Stacy's already said it, but just to clarify, if you're an administrator, you need a master's degree to be that, and so that's not included in
That's
this.
not included.
This is just classroom teachers.
Classroom
Yes.
teachers.
If the job requires it, you don't receive the additional stipend.
It was a prerequisite to
If
get
it was
the
a
position.
prerequisite to get it, that position, you needed that, you're not going to receive another $1,000 to get for your position that you received.
How about as it pertains to the doctorate, master's, the bilingual certification? I see under the stipulation they have to be a classroom teacher, but I know a lot of administrators that have to teach in art or deal with parents on a daily basis in Spanish or to translate for different meetings. They're not qualified to get this stipend.
the understanding is if you're an administrator now, and I'm just going by traditional administrative rules, if you're an administrator, those are other duties as assigned. I mean, it's just a given that if you're bilingual, you help out in those areas. We do that for teachers because it's certainly an attraction to kind of hold and retain great folks that have those skill sets, but it's also something that we can kind of get new folks that want to come to our school district as well.
To speak on the bilingual stipend is also afforded to diagnosticians for LSSP
Because they help.
we discussed our reforms that are require things in that. Sometimes they do translate.
So one of the questions I have is that I have sat in a number of arts where the principal who was bilingual refused to translate the art. And so they had to pull somebody in. I'm just going to tell you that has happened to me on a number of occasions. The other thing is that typically the diagnostician, if they're bilingual, or the LSSP, if they're bilingual, is running the art, and it makes it very difficult for them to translate the art. So to Jeff's comment, yes, we typically, they are bringing in either a classroom teacher or the bilingual, the ESL teacher, like at the high school level. They pull them out of class to come in and translate those arts. And yeah, so, and a lot of times it's a paraprofessional, and I don't know that they're getting, I don't know how much more that they're getting, but anyway, just so you know, that does happen.
I'm willing to bet it's more common than not too, right? Just
Yeah, I
as
don't
our
know.
percentage goes up, like, we're predominantly Hispanic district, right? It's gonna go up and up and up.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying for today, but I like to consider that in the future. Like, if you're gonna pull, like, this para, I didn't even think of that. You're pulling them out of the classroom. I mean,
We're gonna go through most of this whole thing, right? I mean, we're gonna kind of skim.
We're gonna go as far as the board wants to go with it. It is.
What pieces you want to pull out and ask us to address?
do we know,
I thought we were jumping back.
we have the number of like masters and doctorate stipends? Do we know the number of?
It's on, oh, the Spanish?
Yeah,
Well, no, it wasn't, I apologize, it wasn't asked for, so, we will get it for you though.
I will say, just regarding the bilingual stipend, we did raise that stipend, I think it was 2 years ago. I'll make sure, but it was
No, it's a great
recently.
stipend.
Okay, yes, sir. I just wanted to comment on this to the administrators. There are a lot of administrators that I've personally worked with that aren't comfortable translating an art because of the technical language. And so that's why they want to make sure it's right. And some of the people have more experience doing that. But to your point, there are some staff members that do that in various capacities that you share.
Because bilingual to some of them is not necessarily that they're totally fluent.
Correct.
So that makes it really hard for them as well.
Yes, yes. That is a special skill, certainly.
Yes, it is.
We will find out how many employees get an ESL stipend.
So I just want to make sure I'm keeping notes. What do you want to revisit? The bilingual stipend, we want to evaluate that.
No, I mean, not today, I mean, that's not.
Yeah, no, just at this
I was curious to see
point.
who, like, how many of those do we have,
Okay.
like, in the district?
Absolutely. And George is actually, we'll probably have it before we leave, because George is looking it up right
And
now.
then I'd like to look at, like, expanding how we can go about, if we do in fact have errors, other people that are being pulled in to do these, oral assessments or whatever it is. I've heard numerous stories about, I mean, this can be lengthy, and it's just a lot of extra work on people, so if we're paying other people these stipends, I would like to see it, equal, I guess, to the rest.
They are very easy.
Fair enough.
So moving on to the second question, which dealt with the longevity of paraprofessionals and providing them with a stipend depending on how long they've been with the district. So if we have 110 employees that have been with the district over 5 years, so for $500, that would be $55,000. If an employee was over 10 years with the district, that's 104 employees. These are paraprofessionals only, at all capacity. They would be $1,000, so that's $104,000. And then we have 46 employees that are paraprofessionals that have been with the district for over 20 years. And at $1,500, that would be $69,000. So total for that calculation would be $228,000.
You said all paras, so.
All paras.
secretary, okay.
Every para.
That's actually not
22.
as costly as I was expecting.
Jeff, we have 22 ESL employees that have ESL stipends. Thank you, George. Is there any?
So, yeah, board, give us direction on if we certainly, we're not taking votes tonight or anything like that, but give us direction on if you want us to pursue this beginning tomorrow as part of the compensation package. So as we've already kind of visited, number one, we're on number two, tell us kind of what you want from us so that we can begin working on that ASAP.
What are you thinking about? Sorry.
Karen had bounced a thought, and I felt like it was appropriate that we share it here tonight and just kind of kick it around. But if you want to explain kind of.
So, I know we're looking at, we're talking about paraprofessionals, and again, I'm not demeaning anything anybody does, but I think a lot of times, especially when the public is talking about paraprofessionals, they're talking about the ones that are directly in contact with students in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. Because that's where our turnover is so high, and that's where we have such a hard time hiring people, specifically in our focus area, focus classrooms where the paras are expected to toilet, tube feed, sometimes suction. I mean, we have students with not only with cognitive disabilities, but with some pretty significant health issues. And it's tough. I taught in that classroom, so I know it wasn't for me, just so y'all know. Everybody goes, it takes a special person. I wasn't it. But I wonder if it would be reasonable for us to offer that particular position some sort of a stipend so that we can get and keep good people in those classrooms.
So are you specific to only focus employees?
And the reason I'm very
Focus
specific to that is because of actually it's a very physical job. I know in the elementary schools, the behavior support classes can be very physical, but they're typically not changing diapers. They're typically not doing some of the things that the focus teachers. It's just part of their job.
Right.
And most of them have huge hearts, not in it necessarily for the money, but some of them can't afford to stay.
Right.
And so yes, I'm
Okay, well, what we can do is find out how many focus pairs we have. Do you have a dollar amount in mind that
I
you?
believe it was 62 program pairs was the
Program
last.
paras,
But that's
that would be all
that would be all.
So focus is
It's a
much
lot
less.
than focus.
Yes.
Yes, but if you give me a few minutes. I will-
George can pull it too.
And no,
62 is is all program pairs.
That's all
but
program
not just
pairs,
focus.
yeah.
Okay.
And I
Special
would-
ed program pairs? Is that correct?
What I would urge our consideration is that is the tip of the sword. That is the priority group. That typically is the group that our minds go to when we're faced with that. I would be a lot more I'm willing to get them all.
yeah, me too.
But I think if we have to prioritize, which we have to prioritize where we're spending our money, I think, again, we've given a 3% across the board for everybody. Everybody's been touched at this point. Now we're fine tuning. And I think if we can address that group, the focus group, and hopefully help kind of shore any losses that we have,
Yeah.
and slow that down and keep that, stabilize that, and incentivize more people and attract those people, I think it would serve our greater interest. It would definitely offer a better program for our students. And I would just urge the board to take careful consideration of that. I think that moves the needle in the direction of progress. And it also isn't going to put us in a dire strait where we can't, sustain it financially.
Do we have focus positions that were not filled last year?
Very few,
But maybe a few or a couple?
I don't think.
Yeah, are you wanting to see
There were
that
times
as
when we
a,
had no openings at all.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
are you wanting to see that as a stipend for the person who's been here for 10 years, 20 years, and the first, or you want to see one stipend for that job?
I was just really thinking one stipend for the job, but I'm open to suggestions. I just feel like it's a position that, to be fair, if we don't have enough focus, I'm sorry, if we don't have enough focus parents, kids like my son never got to go out to general ed classes, and that matters. And if we don't have enough, then it's tough. It's really tough.
And I appreciate that. That's,
I know you do.
yes, absolutely. Do you have a dollar amount?
I don't. I
Okay, so
should've-
maybe that's something
I'm
that
gonna,
y'all
you know,
can consider,
yeah.
because I know Billy and, I'm sorry?
What's the starting date?
It's,
Mid or 17, 21.
26 sound right, Billy? Around 26?
26, yes. That's what I have to,
Okay.
trying to count in this, and 1431, you said that's.
But that 1431 is not that's,
That's not their average salary.
No,
She
ma'am.
gave us their average salary last year, just discussing
yeah.
their position in particular. They had it in my last year. Sorry. They had written down 1565.
My question, so what you're talking about is just focus, not sale or PSP.
Right, and I could be wrong about this, but I know at the high school level, those teachers are typically dealing with students with average cognitive abilities, and they're they are typically students that are in general education classes. They are not in a self-contained environment. If they require a self-contained environment, they're in focus.
For academics.
For academics, yeah.
We do have some self-contained and some BSP,
Right.
BSP self-contained, but they're littles and we're learning to manage our behavior.
Right, and so, but for overall, yeah, for academics.
Well, let me just kind of throw it, like if there's 26, if it's $1,000 each, it's 26,000.
Yeah.
If it's $500, it's 13,000. So that's just kind of some numbers for you. Again, this is not, things like this, and as Dr. Jackson, spoke about before, at the beginning of the meeting, these type of things are not going to change the budget.
Right.
That you're going to adopt on Monday. These are things that we will go, because they're small, like, they're not small, but I mean, they're not, we don't have time really to go and, if it's a major change, I'm going to go and make a major change. But for these kind of things, you're going to see this as an amendment in August, saying, I'm going to raise this account by X amount of dollars
Makes sense.
to be able to give this to them. And then it gets into, when you do these stipends, how long are they going to stay? They have to be there for X amount of, it's not just given $1. And I'm all for it, but there are other considerations,
understand
like
that.
how long have they been there? Are they going to get it, within, if they've, what we don't want to happen is for them to get it and then leave us.
Right.
Split it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do
Yeah, you
do
have to
that.
have throughout the year,
Right.
like we do other athletic
We
stipends.
absolutely do pay at the beginning and the end for like attendance incentives and different things like that. So that would be my suggestion, is like whatever y'all do decide, we would split it by 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Board, can y'all kind of give us a kind of roundabout figure that you're thinking so that we can at least?
Did we get that number, the total?
It was 26.
26?
That are focused there.
Okay.
But are we talking about that in addition to this? Or are
No.
we mixing this and only doing this? I mean,
I think, Mason, I don't know who you sent that to, I was blind copied on it in terms of were you evaluating
That was
that
just a
proposal?
guesstimate. I took all of my considerations off, so, I don't know who asked for this one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank Karen. But this is not.
I asked
Okay. I would just urge us to just be considerate of the totality of what we're doing. If we can approach it, make that amendment. What was the bilingual, do you have the bilingual number on that stipend?
It's 22 people and they
I do
receive
agree with
$4,000.
Karen's point in that, these paras are doing a different level of care and work than the other ones. But I also have a really hard time giving, this person $1,000 when it's their first year working, or $1,500, whatever we're going to do. And, the registrar who's been there for 40 years, for whatever, and it's not an equal job per se, but if you go ask Jeff what I think is a hard job and what I think,
Right.
The guy on the oil rig's doing a hard job, obviously we're going to have a difference of opinion. So I guess it's what the board can determine is a hard job, and I do think that focus area is one. I just have a hard time singling that one out when I know the BSP teachers are getting literally beat up sometimes during the day.
But to be fair, some of the focus teachers can be in a similar position.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well,
mainly
that
I
was
think
my
what I'm
point.
really
They're both
looking at
doing
is
the same thing.
the reason most people are reluctant to do a focus position is the toileting and the tube feeding and the changing of, just changing diapers and things like that. And keep in mind, when I say changing diapers, I'm talking about, you know, people that are 20 years old. So it's a physical job, you know, so, anyway,
I think they'll agree with you on the work that they do.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
The magnitude of it all.
Yes.
Anybody has an idea about
I
what
think,
you want that to be?
$1,000 goes a long way.
And again, with the 3%, I think, and this isn't forever, it's something that we can look at and say, look, this is a sign of good faith. We really, this is on our priority list, and we want to address all of these issues.
Well, in fairness to that, you give them a stipend for 3 years, you go take it away. We're
No,
gonna be getting
no,
beat
I
up.
didn't mean it that way. I meant it in terms
But
of
that's a
us-
very good point. That is a very good
Yeah, I don't want to
point.
take it away.
Yeah.
My point is, if $1,000 will facilitate a sign of goodwill to say, look, we really do we value all of you, but we really want to address this issue. Give us some more time, because it's gonna take more time to come up with the criteria. How are we gonna pay it out? When are we gonna pay it out? Is it a salary? Is it, you know, I think we don't have that time at this point to make that.
How many total program pairs do we have? Program.
What was it?
62. Yeah. Board, do we just make a recommendation, look at $1,000 for all program? And we come back and revisit the focus group?
I mean, I think
I mean,
for clarification throughout the entire meeting, whenever you ask that question, because I don't assume on Monday we're gonna go through this again and say,
Right.
like, okay, we got 26,000 here, da, da, da. So when you say give a recommendation, we're not voting, but
Right,
that is
but
what
that's
we're
what we're
planning
gonna
on
go,
voting
that's
on
what we're,
Monday.
yeah.
If we can afford to give it to all of the program pairs, I would be all in favor of that. You know, sales.
Well, it's the board's decision about
If we
that.
can afford to do
You
that.
guys have to collectively
That would make
just
good
give us a
sense.
directive.
If we did a flat, and this is the proposal, I'll throw it there, do 1,000 for all program pairs as a sign of good faith. Again, I do believe that's a valid point in terms of tenure. You know, we're gonna have to prorate it in some way, and I don't think we have, that time is not now. But if we can do something again that gets it on the books, gets the budget before us for Monday, I think that we take that 3%, give them another 1,000 on top of that. That's my
Or to do a
recommendation.
stipend, then I would recommend we do the $1,000 and we split it up based on however we normally split it.
Yes, agreed.
So-
Yes.
So it's your meeting, board, and so my job is just to be an advisor and be your employee. Just be careful that your stipends don't raise
Right.
your teachers. Because there could easily become a class warfare, that's all I'm saying. It's my job to say those tough things.
you also then-
Just be careful, okay? Because a 3% raise, and we can almost tell you pinpoint what a professional teacher will get in a 3% raise from one year to the next. We kind of know the dollar figure of that
Right.
off of our head. But what I'm saying is, if you do these things, and that's, I totally agree that these folks are working and doing the work that many of us just would not choose to do, right? And those kids deserve caring people to do those things, and we appreciate that. But let's just keep in mind that there's a 3% raise on the books, and you want to make certain that it doesn't get out of kilter,
Right.
that a paraprofessional's raise ended up being more than your classroom teachers, which is one of your largest groups.
Right, and a classroom teacher, a starting salary, 60,000 is $1,800. So you're already, that's a very good point. Another thing to consider is that, I agree that, yes, absolutely, the focus paras are doing a job that no one else is doing. But you run into risk of animosity between your groups, of different types of paras. Because why do they get this and why, you know, that
Other people
my
on
job
this
is, all
pay grade.
so it's all of these things, it's not just money, it's people's, yes.
I know I need to come closer so people can hear me, but I just want to also point out that we have early childhood special education paras who also change
Right,
diapers
yes.
all day. And so
That's true.
I didn't want anyone on YouTube to think that we don't value that work as well. We do, and they're also doing
So if you could
personal
do
work.
all programs.
So just to clarify, I was talking to Ms. Trader, when we look at this pay grade 3 right here on page 21 of y'all's compensation plan, when we say program paras, I think we're saying BSP, ECSC, focus, and SAIL.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just to clarify that.
Yes.
So that's the 62.
Trustee Crutcher is not feeling well, and she is at home watching Since we're not voting, she can chime in on this. This is just a workshop.
I don't think she can. I don't think that's legal.
No?
No,
No questions?
no.
Okay. Okay.
Danny question.
Yeah, it's a Danny question. But it's the same sentiment. At the end of the day, it's the same sentiment. It's what I just said. So, yeah.
Can you reshare this?
I doubled down.
Again, this is something that is it doesn't have to be decided tonight. It's something that, this is a great opportunity for y'all to discuss and to think about, but we encourage you to think about all parameters and what it touches, and not just,
You know, you give a stipend to the program teachers. They each get a stipend as well. So by giving a stipend to the paras, you're just staying in line with what you're doing for the teachers too. And I was a teacher, and I never resented the fact that that focus teacher was making a stipend that I didn't get, because I was not doing what she was doing.
Are we pushing anybody?
Totally, yeah, no, you're gonna ask a question. So just to Ms. Wheeler Hall's point, sorry, Karen. You know, I want to just, a little bit of history here. There used to be a stipend for program paras in the past. Now, what we ended up doing was we moved them, we shifted them, we reclassified them to another pay grade. So they were no longer with the other classroom paras with a stipend. So then we incorporated that stipend in and gave them a little more. And since then, Ms. Thompson's asked about this before, we've reclassified them one more time to pay grade 3. And I'm validating what you're saying, but also that's kind of how whenever we took that into consideration, instead of the 1204 where the pay grade 1 classroom paras are, they're at the 1431. That was just some history behind that. And then
What year did we move them?
it's on that paper
I have it written down.
I think it was 2 years ago.
21, 22, or
2 years ago. 2 years ago, yes.
I remember that.
We moved them from 2 to 3.
Yes, correct. And just to speak on just Mr. Paris's point here is just looking at encroaching on the next pay grade 4 on the next page. You have those paraprofessionals, secretaries, and things that are classified, and while they're not doing that work, they do have some other job duties. I think it's $1,700 difference in these two. So if we give them $1,000, there'll be just $700 difference between that pay grade 3 and pay grade 4 with a stipend. I just wanted you to see that, just compression wise.
500,
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could do a lesser stipend. I'm open to that. Yeah.
you know, right, it's.
I think that's a good thing, stipend.
Yeah.
I agree. And it also goes along with some of our other ones that are for paras.
That's correct.
Is the 500.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine.
Okay, and so that would be for all program paras?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be
Being
about
specifically.
$31,000.
Board?
Can you define a program para again? So, somebody, I don't really, I know what.
Billy?
All in one section here?
So that'd be your behavior support paras, your focus paras, like Ms. Paula said, your SAIL paras, that's the communication program that we have, and your early childhood special education paras. Am I leaving anything else?
What about the district behavior para? That's another.
that's
But-
in pay grade 3 as well.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, that would be but we currently do not have that position.
Okay, we're not currently, because we put them in the classes with the, based on
Yeah.
the needs.
Right, that's where I get the problem in that, you know, like we just said, that one person, while we don't have it now, is there also someone's job in here who is similar to that job that we're not gonna be able to include in I'm not using that one as an example, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I have a real problem picking.
Well, you
and
just wanna make
choosing,
sure, yeah,
so,
right.
Whether they're doing a great job or not.
You know,
But it's,
we just had this very discussion in the private sector, talking about when you raise the floor, you squeeze the center. And what happens is that even if you can afford the floor and adjust those low rate, what happens is you completely compress everybody, and we can't afford the middle top to go with it. And I just want the public to know that that is a huge factor in these decisions. It isn't something that we have to consider those things, and the financial implications by moving that floor too much, and we have to adjust everything across the board, and that's where it becomes extremely problematic. So, I think I think in my opinion, it is in our interest to go with that $500 stipend. And, again, it's a living, breathing document. We can continue to amend this throughout the year as we see fit, as more funds become available, or we come up with a better idea. But at this point, I think that if we can provide you that directive and get that in force on Monday, I would
Well,
be
what we're
appreciative.
gonna do is, on Monday, we're gonna ask you to adopt the budget, which is,
Yep.
and then in August, we will give you the amendment to
Yep.
that, okay? So, are we prepared to move on to the next? Okay, so manual trades, their pay grades 1 through 3. What would it look like financially to give them a 50-cent increase? And, the answer would be $134,000. So that would be, that's in addition to their 3%, they would receive their 3%, but it would be another $34,000 to give them a 50, they would get their 3% plus the 50 cents.
Yeah, I just know this particular pay grade hasn't been adjusted in several years, and there's a almost a mark of demarcation between pay grade 3 and 4, where even if we adjusted 50 cents, we're not really encroaching pay grade 4. I'm on page 24 of the comp plan, guys, I'm sorry. So I was just trying to see what the financial implication would be to raise those by 50 cents.
Only 1 through.
1
Okay,
through 3.
there's such a big gap.
Yeah, there's a big gap between 3 and 4.
So that would be $134,000. And that is, again, remember that when you change these, it continues forever. So we can't, once we change a pay grade, you cannot go back down, unless we have financial contingency, so.
I'm going to clarify something just really quickly. So this hiring, this is for our compensation plans, advertisement for hiring schedule when we hire people.
Right.
So you're thinking, your kind of recommendation is correct. And so these would all change by 50 cents, so the minimum you want, is that what you're thinking, Ms. Thompson? So our minimum at 1097, is that what you calculated? And so that would be people we hire in. You're also wanting that to reflect our current incumbents, 50 cents more in addition to their raise? Right. Or, okay, is that?
That's how we took the question. Is that what your intent was?
No, I was thinking like new hires.
New hires, okay.
Because I don't think
Okay, that's what I
this
thought.
is-
Okay,
don't
I
think
wanted
this
to,
is very
correct.
well-
So it would be to
well-
advertising and to attract people.
Yes.
But, and so the
Right,
raise,
if they do not already
if they're not
make
already,
50 cents more, like you still have to, you have to
You're
adjust
gonna have to
everybody.
make some adjustments.
right, we will
You have to
to,
adjust pretty much everybody.
maybe not
make
quite by
them
50 cents, but
Fit into
depending.
where, whatever their percentage is, let's say they're like 20% higher than that minimum amount, they have to now be 20% higher than that minimum amount. So therefore, it's giving 50 cents to every employee that is in these pay grades.
Is it
I don't know
giving
how much-
50 or it's not giving 50?
Well, I don't know how much the raise impacts their current salaries, peak incumbents, so you,
So
it's
you're saying even
3%.
affect the 3% and then just make sure that they're not too close to the new starting salary.
They need to be, in fairness, they need to be the same. If they were, again, 20% from the minimum, they need to be 20% from the new
So you
minimum.
would give everybody 50
You would have to give everyone 50
And
cents.
that's what this number is.
That's what that number is.
The 134,000.
Yes, ma'am.
I
That-
know for starting to take the salaries, we always compare it to other districts, we have to be competitive, recruit talent. Is that the same case when it comes to manual trades?
We do look at CASB report on all positions, so we do look to see how competitive we are.
And TASB does a good job of pulling that data for us. And they will give us what Region 4 is really doing.
So we're in line, I guess. And not for nights, I know.
Let-
Right,
but
we
like-
are,
Let me answer it like this, Jeff, if I may. We could be in line for 1 year, and then if somebody does something next year bigger than what we did, we could be out of line again. You know
That's
what I
all I'm
mean?
getting at, like, maybe, not getting that, please, I know, not for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, my company doesn't hire a lot of crossing guards, but we do have, things like custodians and things like that, and our pay is competitive. For here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just hourly rate is competitive with, some of what we do, so I don't know.
I just think like, every year we base our starting teacher pay off, like, looking at others. I think in the future, maybe look at, and we're gonna look at these in more detail next
Sure.
year, right? Just kind of where we stand based on where everybody else is going.
So you know, every year we do look, and that's a good point. And so in 22-23 school year, we increased the pay grade 1, 2, and 3. From, like, for example, pay grade 1 was increased from 1075 to 1193. And so they're in the same, we looked at all of that carefully to make sure we were in line. The other thing we always think about is our current incumbents. They stay with us, they benefit from the raises that you all generously pass, and so we always look at what is our average pay. So people who stay with us, though we want to attract new people too, and that's important, we look at our average pay. And so, like for example, in pay grade 1, rather than that minimum of 1097 that's in your compensation plan, it's 1305 is our average pay. In pay grade 1. That's just one example.
You just named off another number?
I did.
That I don't see anywhere here. What is that number?
Oh, it was pay grade 2, it was 2, not 1.
Pay grade 2, okay, I was looking at 1 and I was lost, okay.
No, pay grade. Okay. Oh, yes, you know what? Well, yes, so I did. So, yeah, so I went, it's like 1097. So from 975 to 1097. Sorry about that.
So this was adjusted recently?
It was in 22-23. Correct. But the average pay I gave you was correct of our incumbents, so
So
it does
with the
pay to
board-
stay here.
So would the board like for us to kind of continue to look at the 50 cents or the,
Okay, I have my 22-23 and it says $10.97. I have my book.
Okay.
I have my 24-25 book.
Okay.
I have my 23-24
Well,
book.
it maybe that was moved to that, and then, for 21-22, we'll have to go back and look.
I mean, it's the board's decision. I just,
yeah.
It goes back to the hard work thing, you know,
I
the
just
people.
think we forget about the little people and it upsets me.
Make a recommendation for us, because we certainly can, you know, we can move with this. And just as we had that conversation about our focus paras and all of those folks, we want these folks to feel valued and have the same level of value that
So we're
everybody
getting ready to
else.
hire a new maintenance person over all of maintenance. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Perhaps we could visit that once that person is hired to see what their thoughts are on it, and, because it's their budget, you know, personally, right, so.
Right, but it's your budget.
No, I know,
as well.
but well, I'm just
I mean
thinking,
that
like-
respectfully, but you know.
The other
you
part
tell
to
us
it
what you
is,
want us to do.
a new person may decide, we don't need these positions, we want to have this position instead, and so,
Okay.
you know, I don't know. I mean, I think it's something we should talk about if
Well, it
we're,
goes into two things. I mean, you know, part of it's transportation. You're not going anywhere, so.
right,
We're not
no,
letting
yeah,
you leave.
transportation is
Yeah.
one thing, but I'm
But
talking
a lot of our, bus monitor, crossing guard, I think most of those things fall into, transportation. My problem again is they're all equally doing a hard job based on what we think is a hard job. Because I just went to transportation, and the things they were doing with those buses looks a lot harder than things I would do on a day-to-day basis. But I don't know. I feel I had a change of heart recently, but I think that some of the stuff just needs to stay the same until we can do something that would benefit the entire pay grade as a whole, for the entire manual trades section.
the whole thing, not just groups 1 through 3.
Correct. I'm not saying I'm adamant against it. You know, I think that there is a division gap in there, but it was raised recently.
No, I don't have 21.
So
I think
would,
they deserve it.
so if 50 cents, and I'm going back to it, if 50 cents is something that maybe has some folks concerned, what about half of that? Sure.
On the pay grade for, when we're talking about the electrical technician,
Sure.
are those people with, like certifications or licenses that
It
we
depends,
hire?
am I correct, Dr. Bromley? Because a plumber will have to have a license.
So that may be the difference in
Right.
the,
Clearly it
in 3
is.
to 4, is
Clearly
that
it
you're
It's a certified
licensed.
teacher versus a, person that
Okay.
doesn't.
No, I
have
can
a-
understand
I
that
think
better
that's a
now.
good idea. I just talked to Dean, that's 67 grand. I think that still equates to like $500, $700 bonus for the 25 cents.
There you go.
So, but I think 50 cents on an average scale rounds up to like a little over $1,000 or right at $1,000. So, on a 40-hour week. I would be okay with the 25 cents.
I think it sends a message that you value, you send in value to that,
Right.
It sends a message. And, this is an intelligent board. You guys all have lived with this documents for a long time. It's on top of your 3% raise that you're giving everybody. So I just want to keep reminding us, it's not like we didn't get a raise and you're trying to figure out if they're going to get 25 cents or 50 cents. It's on top of that to try to say, here's something that we're trying to show you. So the board, give us that direction. If you do, we're going to go to work on it.
I'm gonna defer to you guys, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, 25 cents please on that pay grade 1.
On pay grade 1,
I'm sorry.
1, 2, and 3.
Sorry,
1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Sorry, Palmer.
Okay, so the next question pertains to our STEM program. And so, Julie, I was going to ask, I would, if you would, this is your answer, so I think you would do much better.
Just kind of read some of what you said. So, yes,
Yes,
and then,
please.
and at least it'll provide,
This is your
it'll provide context for those are in our listening audience.
Yes, true.
I apologize for putting you on this, I didn't tell you before.
So the question was regarding the STEM program, and do we have, what is our staffing for this program that we promote, and have we made any adjustments to that staffing? And so my answer is yes. So in 24-25, we have plans for 2 full-time teacher positions for that STEM program, up from 1 full-time position from last year. And we will have 2 stipends, which is really the old stipend. It is going to be divided into 2. So we have added a new position to STEM program to expand our reach into 6th grade. That position is called the Secondary STEM Facilitator, and this role is going to provide direct instruction in the STEM Exploration Lab elective at Baker part-time, and then provide part-time leadership for secondary STEM and robotics throughout the district. Shannon Fanning is going to move into that role. And then Shannon's former role, which was called previously STEM Facilitator, we are changing that title to Elementary STEM Facilitator, and Michael Newman will move into that position, and he will carry on the role that Shannon has filled as that elementary teacher of that STEM lab throughout those elementary campuses. In addition, Shannon and Michael will work together to provide oversight and guidance for the robotics program at the district level. As we've seen we're seeing an expansion, and we want to continue to grow that program. So in addition to those 2 full-time positions, as I mentioned, we've got 2 stipends, and really we've split that stipend to provide to both Shannon and Michael to provide for their work outside of the classroom day. As I mentioned, they do a lot of work in supporting our robotics program. So we have 2 stipends. One is STEM Community Outreach Coordinator for Michael, which is a $2,500 stipend. And that will go to ensuring continued social media presence and making sure that we have publicity for our STEM programs, picture taking, archiving, things like that, as well as STEM community events. So we have some STEM events that are happening on campus, elementary campuses, but we want to provide a district-wide surge for that and community outreach, and partnering with our community partners to help provide support for our program. So he will oversee that with that stipend. And then Shannon will receive that stipend for providing that leadership for the district-wide STEM, being that robotics coordinator, and providing training and coaching for those campus teams. So part of her expectations will be after school, when those robotics clubs are meeting, that she will visit with each of them and provide that technical support with coding and all the things that she's really great
We're
at.
still providing the stipend for the robotics teachers.
And the teachers, yes, that hasn't changed. This is just in terms of oversight and leadership, yes. Yes, ma'am.
And in follow-up on our additional email behind this, I
Oh,
know
yes,
there's
ma'am.
been some concern from myself and others on the board about the supply budget for the STEM program. And your answer to me was K through 6 is $5,000. So are we, any other funding that we are doing is through our community partners?
No, well,
Education Foundation.
yes and no. Let me answer that. And I don't mean to usurp your thoughts here.
No, you're-
Julie. When our principals come back and we sit down and talk with all our principals, we're going to look at all of those things. When we were the HEB excellence or what were we?
Yes.
Yeah, we were something.
We were winners, really.
Well, they gave us a check.
Yes.
And I just gave it to Stacy and I said, hold this because this too will go into the STEM fund for next year. So what we're gonna do is, and that was not a lot of money, but I said, I want that to be focused towards us sharing that. And so what Julie has answered is correct, but when I bring my principals back, we're gonna sit down and talk about needs and all of those things. And you say, well, why haven't you done that before the budget? Well, we haven't really gone into this whole compensation plan of this piece. And so that's a piece that we can do and bring forth an amendment so that. So our STEM program will be adequately, as far as supplies, adequately funded. And when I say adequately funded, we're gonna see what principals say they need, and then we're gonna try to divide that up by the campuses. All right, say it again, Mason.
Plenty of copy.
Plenty of copy paper.
I will say that part of the STEM program has been, the directive that we, not that I gave, but we came up with is to have this be something that's very sustainable, but also very low tech, meaning we want the processes in the STEM Academy to be about building an engineering design process and allowing students to use low-cost materials to do the thinking. And you can implement a STEM program and have it be super heavy, wowsy technology, but then in 3 years you're coming back for more funding because all that technology is gone. So we really wanted it to be thought process heavy, experience heavy, which really then ensures or mandates that we are relying on consumables that are low cost
Which
and
is
low
why
yield.
you have to have your principals in the room
Correct.
to make that happen, because we can't just budget that and we don't
Right.
have a clue of what all they need.
Right.
And so you gotta have your folks to say, here is what we really need.
Correct.
And then we decide, how do we go about it?
As well as you would include Michael and Shannon
Well,
in that
clear.
process.
Well,
They're
Shannon-
gonna get their directives from Michael.
Right. If there's anybody who's going to find 2 nickels to rub together and find $100
It'll be
between them,
Michael
it'll be
and
Shannon
Shannon.
Fanning,
Yes,
right? So she has done a great job of unifying all the supplies within the district so that if I need pipe cleaners to go to Mason's campus for the programs that I'm doing there, I'm gonna make sure that we have that and we spread the wealth. So she does a great job of organizing that and keeping our budget costs down as much as possible. But certainly, every year we ask Shannon to go through with Michael and come up with what is the projected needs for this next year based on the curriculum, and she's done a great job of doing that for us. And right now, her anticipated needs for next year's supplies for those consumable materials is $2,400 and some change, so about $2,500.
So you mentioned Shannon, so Shannon and the other ones, the city that were saying to robotics, they come before the Education Foundation every year and ask for $10,000-$20,000, but it's not necessarily supplies to send these kids to robotics competitions, and things are substantial amounts of money.
Correct. Right.
So is there additional budget for that, or are you guys just talking about materials costs?
No, there's not an additional budget for that right now. But I want to have a conversation, and I don't know that it's apropos for tonight. I want to have that conversation with the board in a session, because I want to know, because a teacher asks the foundation for something, does it mean that the school district is not supplying it? Or why is the foundation here if the teacher can't ask for those things? If you're saying write for whatever you want to write for. And so I do kind of, because I'm on the foundation board, and I've been in those meetings where I feel really bad because people are saying, that's so sad that those teachers don't have materials, and the superintendent's sitting there and like, nobody brought that to us. But they're asking because here's another group that says we have money. So I think we really have to have a conversation on what is it that the district should be taking care of versus what should they be asking for. But I think when we open it up, I think they will ask you, can we go to Astro World for 2 weeks? Because I want to take my kids and show them what the roller coaster looks like. And I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious in that, but you get my point. So Jeff, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm saying I want to make sure that our teachers are not coming before the foundation asking for things that they should be asking their principal for, who in charge should be asking us. and say, well, we need these things. And so I felt bad about being in those meetings
I'll have to
sometimes.
agree with you, but I think
Yeah.
in that particular instance, I think
Yeah.
they view it as a necessity, not necessarily a want, like it's something they're gonna go have to go raise. Because what's happened in the last couple years when it comes to us, it's like, we gotta go raise money, like, to meet the payment, to come up with those nickels you're talking about, like, it's
Yeah.
not something like the wish, like, it's something they need to do for that program. And so that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
so maybe we do as a district a better job of understanding what they need.
What they need.
Well, First Robotics has a very
Point taken.
specific, like,
Point
the
taken.
kit costs X amount of dollars. But that kit is only the starting blocks. And then you have to build your robot.
Yeah.
And that is not cheap.
Well,
But in
and
fairness, you only know what they're, I mean, you
What
can go and
they
ask
tell
them,
you
they're
they
blue in
need.
the face, but if they're not gonna tell you what they need, then.
Well, and
sometimes they just don't, I mean.
And Candace handles my budget for me in the central superintendent's office. I keep a budget for when campuses need something and we don't want to go through the bureaucratic plan of asking all these different folks. So point taken, in the high school this past year, there was a club that needed some things. And I said, email me and I'll make sure we take care of it right away. Now, they didn't say that the high school didn't refuse to do it. They just said, here's something that we really could use, because when I leave a classroom, we're gonna say, what do you need? Well, that's a good question. I need these things. And so I would ask Candace to kind of appropriate those, because I have some funding in a superintendent's fund. I can just take care of those things. I can't do it for everybody in the district, but we do need to do a better job. And I agree with you, Jeff. We need to do a better job of asking our staff early on, what are your wish lists and what do you need? But as I read tonight, there has to be a wish list, and then we have to decide what's our priorities. And so we've got to do a better job of that, because I really want to be on that foundation board and not feel like I'm being derelict in my duties as a superintendent, and I'm not giving our teachers what they need, because they want 2 extra laptops, so they want a flat screen in the back of the room and one in the front of the room so they can see their back. So whatever it is, and so we want to do those kinds of things, but we have to do a better job of asking. So you got my word on that. I will do a better job of that.
And
We will do a better job.
Absolutely. And I will add that having these leadership adjustments will also help unify the asking, because in the past, not having a unified leader over the robotics coordination in that way makes it to where the needs are unknown because it's different campuses and so forth. So anyway, we're working on really making sure that we do a better job of that.
And in other districts, just so you know, most of those robotics programs are sponsored by a business. So the district doesn't typically pay for
And our
that,
partners in
so
education is
it's-
helping us with that. I
Correct.
mean, we've come a long way in just a year and a half, 2 years with the partners. And so we've got people wanting to help us. But again, and I appreciate that, Karen, we do not want to be derelict in our duties with the funding of those kinds of things. It should be extra and not in lieu of.
So that was the list of questions that was presented to us.
Deanne, is there anything else on that last one you have questions about, madam?
No, that's good.
I dropped it, but I kind of want to bring it back up.
Sure.
We talked about master's degree earlier. I had asked Dr. Conley, Stacy, HR, whoever was answering that, but there is an ASE and a TASBT, are those acronyms right? Those are basically for the technicians who work on the buses, and they have to go through a slew, like 17 things to become a master at this, and the district is working on it. I believe they're going some this summer. They don't have a stipend for that master's degree. I would like to see, and they're not all going to get it this year, and they may not all have it. They may leave and go somewhere else. But I think there's a max of 6 people who could even qualify to get the stipend, and so I would like to see if they get the ASC, they get 1,000, and they get the TASBT at a master level. We don't do anything for them until they get to that master status certification. That they get $1,000 for each of those stipends. I didn't write it.
No,
I took it off.
this is something new.
It was on his original email though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand
But I didn't have to put it on this.
Right,
I had
so-
to take it off.
And you said the ASD and what else?
The TASBT.
Yeah, they were each $1,000, so at a max total, which they aren't all gonna get there this year, or probably next year, it would be a max of $12,000, for that fund. Anyways, so I would like to see that, with the rest of the board is,
And that was one of the recommendations from the
consultant.
transportation study.
Yeah. Okay.
We we got it, we got folks taking notes.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
The other thing I could, don't give me for being a road director on this, but, I would like, I'll get a little person to ask. I know last week the proposed deficit went from 4.8 to 7 point, whatever, all they know. Is there any chance that, like a great chance, that it can go
It can still move.
back down? So
Yes.
just for history's sake, last year this time, I think we were still looking at a $2.3 million deficit. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be like last year, but we ended up with a $5.6 million surplus.
Right.
So my question is, I don't have anything for you guys tonight, Andy, but I really, really would like to look at, if we get anywhere close to a break-even budget, okay, I know that's easy to say, I'm not saying
I hope you're a profit.
we're talking about a lot of things, we're talking about money tonight, which I am for,
I hope you're a
but
profit.
one of the things, again, that I've been adamant on is looking at that insurance allotment, that TRS insurance, that 2/3 of our district employees, you guys told me it's over 800 employees are part of TRS.
70%.
And so I would really like to look at doing a cost increase on that. I know, I understand that we're higher than Deer Park and whoever else. That is a huge selling point to our staff and to anybody that chooses to come be a partner with Porte ISD. I'm not asking for it tonight, but if we do get somewhat close, we close that gap, that $8 million gap we're talking about, that we can look at it again. I know we talked about it last year, it didn't happen, but I would really like to do it.
What would it's 400, what is it?
It's $400, yes.
It went up how much, 8%?
No, but I'm asking, but what would your recommendation be? Because we could at least kind of just run the numbers and just
I think
see.
it's like $40.
My proposal last year was that we have a forever, this district had a no-cost, the option, right? And that's what I would like to look at now. Last year when they gave me the numbers, to do it last year was about $232,000 or $233,000, which is not nothing. But it's something like, our insurance should be pretty great, and it's gotten worse and worse every year. If nothing else, I just want some options on it. It'll be self-insured, that's fine, but what else can we do?
Why can't we go out for bid? I mean, I understand if you leave TASB 3 years, clear on that.
If you leave TRS 5 years, you can't go back in.
How'd you know?
Or is it 5? I think.
It was 3 last.
Okay, well, we'll find out.
Okay.
But the thing is, districts that are our size, that are self-funded, you have one person that has a catastrophic cancer, whatever.
I don't want to say thinking about a self-funded.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you go out and call Cigna or something.
You have to buy the insurance for the
People bid
insurance.
on it.
by-
And so we
You're
do,
talking
every
about
fall,
the actual
we go out and we have a company that goes and looks, and we pull all of our claims for the past couple of years, and we have a consultant that goes and looks and sees, are we better off with TRS, or do we have options? And for the past years that they've been doing this, up until, we'll do it again this next fall, it has been, it is better for your employees to be with TRS. And this is a consultant who sells his own insurance. So it's not behooved to him to, like, he wants our business.
Would it be, have we ever asked if they would be willing to sign a 3-year contract, if that would behoove them? and if they let us-
I don't know that I don't even know that that's a possibility.
But
that
we will
someone
ask.
give it to you.
We
Yes.
will ask, because
We can.
with inflationary costs, I don't think anybody's gonna allow themselves to be
No.
kind of put in
Well,
a
in
corner
the
like that.
insurance
Yeah.
industry, not
Yeah.
health insurance,
Sure.
but they got away from, signing 3-year contracts for 2 years because no one wanted to do that anymore.
Right.
But with the cost of things going up and the same, some of them are jumping back onto that ship, saying, you know what, if we can lock down $5 million rather than
Yeah.
possibly losing 1.2 and getting the 1 million. So some of them are looking at it. I don't know about the health insurance industry, but it is something.
We can ask.
We will ask those questions
Because that
and we'll
helps our
bring it back.
3-year thought.
One of the things, if we close that gap, correct me if I'm wrong, the TRS increase, the 8% is for everyone that gets TRS, or is it just for LaPorte?
It is for they look at our
District
districts,
size.
our district size, and then also, yes. So another district that's bigger, they have a different percentage increase.
Right.
Like, it depends on who is their
But if we
customers.
close that gap, or attempt to close it, that would make us more competitive.
It's a bit for
And then, I agree, I would like to see us look at, is the 8% increase, when I visited with our, because we just renegotiated all of our stuff, the 8% increase, he said, is way off in the state of Texas, way higher. So I don't know, he said that's the problem with working with school districts, but, so it just concerns me that TRS is kind of like stringing us along.
Yes.
And,
But you
Well,
also
and they're
have to look
operating
at-
like they're the only company in town.
well,
too, I mean,
they
'cause
have
really
made
are
themselves
the
kind of the
only
company in town, which is problematic, but,
But they also have to pay claims too, right?
sure.
So if they got bombed on a year or 2-year period, that's gonna adjust everybody's
So one of
premiums.
the things though is.
That's everybody.
But a lot of the insurances now are really going towards working with people to be well. Like they pay you like $100 if you go get your physical. Yes, to stop doing that. So anyway, and there's opportunities.
But I concur with Jeff, because I was a single teacher at one time where it didn't cost me a dime to
Right,
take
yeah, we
insurance.
had it for
That's
years
a
here.
very long time ago, and inflation has just eaten away at all of those things, and it's just really hard to do. But if the district can offset it, so be it at some point.
The only other one.
Again, I know I'm looking at tonight, I'm not proposing it now.
I
I'm just
know.
saying,
If we come up with a
solution.
solution, we will come back and have that conversation.
We will absolutely, and we can give you the cost of what it would be, we'll calculate out what the cost would be for a zero, yeah, okay?
Okay, my last one. I keep saying I wasn't gonna bring them up, but I am. The crossing, the more we talk, the crossing guards, attendance stipend, I think we rounded it out to $3,750. I wanted to bring it up to match, what was it, bus monitor? Something, whatever the one above it was. It's like bus monitor, 500, and then a $250 stipend for the, crossing guard. If they have perfect attendance, they get a $500 stipend.
Right, it was increasing it, well, currently they do get a stipend of $250, and you wanted to increase it to $500,
500.
and that would be $3,250.
And that's a class that we're having a hard time, you know.
That's what I was
taking.
wondering,
So,
Okay, I'm gonna circle both of
That's
those.
like, what'd you say?
3250,
So $500 for perfect attendance?
right, and it's paid
Separate.
twice.
At the,
Yeah.
Pays at the end of the year, obviously.
Right, and every day they lose $50. So it goes,
I mean, that's an area where we.
so they can
have-
still get money even if they're not
I mean, we need the
100%.
bus monitors and we need the crossing guard to be there.
Right?
So
Okay,
Dr. Jackson doesn't have to walk people across Underwood.
That's
What do you
right.
have, ma'am?
I'm good with that.
You're good?
Yes.
Jeff? Mason, anything else?
No,
Karen?
I'm good with that.
All right, I have one thing that, it wasn't a question that was posed, but it's something that I was looking into another situation that created a situation, a potential situation, and that is athletic bus drivers. The coaches driving the buses. And by moving coaches from one facility to another facility, you can create a vacuum at one school and not have bus drivers.
I think that's.
And trying to find an incentive that would get people to get their CDL so they can be those bus drivers.
Getting a CDL is like going to MIT.
they do have, they receive $1,000 for a coach that has a CDL. They do get that.
They get a
Yes,
$1,000
sir.
stipend.
They already have that.
And a per
Something that other
trip.
districts
And they get a per trip fee
Can you
also.
tell them what the per trip thing is?
It's $25 per trip.
How much?
Yeah, oh, sorry, in district is 15, out of district is 25. Is that correct?
What if
Yes, they already get that.
Would, in a unique situation, it's unique, that the coach isn't coaching that team, he's just driving for another team?
They get
And-
$25
Yes,
or
$25.
Even if
$15.
they're sitting there, okay, that's what I need to know.
Mhm.
So that will be a discussion, we'll have that. I don't think it's today, but I do want to look at it. Is that it, board? We comfortable with everything?
I won't work, not for tonight, it's just,
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't answer. I'm really curious to see, I know this is like, we're talking about dinner budget fund, but like, I'd like to see on a per campus breakdown, how their budgets vary, if that makes sense. Like,
Okay, absolutely. It's
are they
actually
similar,
part,
Are they drastically different, is there
It-
different?
It's based on that, student numbers.
enrollment.
you know,
It's based on enrollment and then also on their staffing. But I can send that
It's
to
not based
you.
on like socioeconomic?
It is. It's also, there's a,
Some of that is weighted, some of that
It's
is weighted.
Like, tutors are paid for at campus X, Y, Z, as opposed
Yeah, it'd be good to see
to A,
that.
B, or C, you know? That's why I'm interested in looking at.
well, yes, and we will provide that to you. We already have it. That's what we actually give to them. We explain it all out to them. This is how much you get based on, use their snapshot date as this is the date of how many students you have.
Sure.
But there's an actual piece of paper that says supplies, 5,000.
No, they get to decide that.
The principal
You
just
just give
makes
them a
that
budget.
decision.
We give them a dollar amount that has to be
And the
spent.
principal decides how much of that is gonna go to tutoring as well.
But can you
Yes.
require them to fill something out and show you what they're spending the money on?
Yes, they have to fill out, they actually go into our system and enter their own budget. And then if they have any additional needs or wants, they have a form that they fill out to us, and then we have a conversation about it.
So there is, okay.
Yes, there's
And
a
just for the
form.
record, there's never, and I won't say never because you back yourself up, but there's rarely a time a campus is in need of something and ask this office, meaning central office, and does not get it. I've been here, I'm going into my 5th year. I've not heard anybody ever come and say, we needed these things and we're not able to get them. Because number one, they get their budget, but clearly, most of us that hold our own budgets, we hold back some to help folks. Am I right, Jennifer?
Yes.
You know, and many times I'll walk down the hallway and say, hey, can you find me X? And she figures it out, you know what I mean? Because sometimes we can pay with federal versus local, right? But, so it's all about how do you budget it and what are your just like we're trying to go through our priorities, we're trying to be better stewards at teaching our principals how to utilize that and prioritize. But there should not be, and I'm going to say this louder for the people in the back, there should not be people complaining that we do not have paper, because I know and you know what those budgets look like.
And every year, I've gone back and looked at them, every year, every campus has money left over. So they have money.
Now,
How they choose to spend it is
how
on
they
them.
choose to spend it. Now, I will say this.
Communication breakdowns.
It's a communications breakdown, clearly it is. But I will also say this. There are some parts of our beautiful town that have ministries and supports and support groups that say, we're going to take care of your tutoring for you. Well, that automatically puts me at a disadvantage if there's not a group that's doing that for me. Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about this from a partners education standpoint,
Yes.
because we have churches that are
Yes,
saying, I'm paying
that
for
help
reading
us.
specialists.
Yeah.
I want to see which ones aren't being paid for, because we have
Gotcha.
other partners that, like, my friends in the industry, that we can send your way. Like, I'm not, it's not the district, I just want to know
I got you.
where we need help, because we have people that want to help.
Because there are some campuses don't have those. I mean, it's the same with PTOs. Some have PTOs that are robust, you know, and every teacher gets whatever, you know, for Christmas and for the start of the year. And then some campuses just don't have those families, those teachers, those parents that are able to do that. And so those teachers are at a slight, I'll say, disadvantage with some of those things. So we can provide you with some of those. We can provide you with that. Absolutely.
Dr. Jackson, you had sent us an email, I guess Stacy answered on the enrollment of campuses, because I was very
Yes.
alarmed that we as a board had brought up, do we need to redistrict because of the enrollment at a couple of our elementaries
Right.
being so low over the last several years?
Right.
We were going to make some programmatic changes to correct some of that. But if I read the email correctly, those programmatic changes are not going to correct the issues that we spoke of.
They're not going to correct all of the issues, and we can talk about some of the programming. What was going to happen is, had we moved forward after we even delved deeper into it, and Dustin's going to kind of help me with some of this, we found if we move an entire program, it could cause one campus to lose pretty much a third of, you know, I'm saying a third, but it could be, you know, 10, 12 teachers from that campus. You got 30 teachers, that's a lot of folks. And so we had to make some tough decisions on, do we take 12 teachers with a program? 16. 16, okay, I said 12. 16. That's significant. And so we made the difficult decision to not go forward with that, but we did change some of the other things that we had talked to the board about.
But it's still not bringing additional students to the Rizzuto campus.
Not yet.
We're not being good fiduciaries, keeping
Not yet.
300 kids at a campus and 600 at another one.
No.
No.
Correct. So when we offset, the problem with, there was two ways of looking at it. If you get into the neighborhood part of it, we were trying to be as, you know, as least impactful of the community piece. So then we went to the programmatic. Well, you got to look at our larger programs, the biggest one being bilingual. And number 150-ish, I think was roughly the kid amount there. And then the teacher attachment to that was around 15 or 16 teachers. When we took those from Heritage, it made it literally one of our smallest campuses, and then it blew Rizzuto back up closer to almost 600.
So we thought we were answering
So
the
what we were
problem.
trying to do, it kind of backfired on us when we put the data to it, and it just kind of offset. So we're still looking at doing that every year just to see how we can kind of fluctuate, because we've got those apartments that are coming in play. Right now,
Where are those routed?
currently they're zoned to Heritage, but they're not going to be ready for another year. We won't have kids in there.
They won't
But
show up in
if
August.
we get kids, we move bilingual, kids start coming to Heritage, we can offset some of that. So the program piece kind of backfired in a sense that it didn't do what we needed it to do. What we did decide to move forward was the special education, the BSPs and the Help Me Billy cell and the cell. So that was east-west for more so the transportation concept
So
to
we
be able to
moved
do that.
some of that to Bay Shore.
You didn't do the SCP, right? Those are still on the same campuses.
The ESP are still in the same campus, we moved this
Cell,
cell from Rizzuto
Rizzuto,
to College
College Park, correct.
Because
So
the
we
bus
moved
routes
something
and-
from Rizzuto to another campus.
It was, but how many kids were there?
It was all,
That's 10.
yeah,
We're
there
supposed
wasn't
to
much.
be moving things
Correct.
to there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where is the BSP, Jerry, and
And, Rizzuto.
Rizzuto, that's BSB as well. So that was trying to split up some of those programs because we had so many on one
Those two
campus.
are in the middle, and then sail are on the other.
East and
on
west.
One on each end.
Right.
and tell me where those went again, sorry.
Okay, so sail is College Park and Woodward Elementary.
Right.
I think Ian's point, and I mean, we're not gonna solve it tonight, but, you know, that is, we have some campuses that are severely underpopulated in value, and I understand we lost kids, but, you know, we're paying to keep the lights on and do all these things, and, you know, not whoever's listening, I'm not saying close down school, but to an extent, I mean, we need to do something.
We're certainly gonna revisit again,
And I
but
think-
that's the reality of it. We were gonna make one campus the smaller campus
Right.
and create another issue, and it didn't do what we.
So without going in, we're gonna have to dive into neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
Which is what we
truly
tried to not do.
rezone, and we didn't.
And that's
right.
gonna be a problem.
Right, so that's the only way to get it to where it's balanced.
Because there's gonna be some families from years that have gone to a particular
Yeah.
school.
But in fair, I
That's
think
gonna be a problem.
if anybody's gonna know how people are gonna react, I think it's the board is pretty well connected enough to know that,
Sure.
you know, if we're willing to take the brunt, and I think everybody else would be willing to take the brunt and get it fixed.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we obviously, that was why we went into.
Melissa brought this up
Melissa's
twice,
been
and
talking-
she's talking about, that's the school that her children attend.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's
Yep,
I mean, she's being
definitely not
objective
being a
about
good
it.
steward of the money, or,
Well,
but I
and
mean,
you know,
I understand.
I do too.
So, but at the same point, we're still saying that, well, I'm gonna be bringing this back up at the next meeting, but we did this whole Baker study. We never really saw that through, I don't think, to the extent that, at least I wanted to see.
well, we didn't close it, we just didn't, we haven't bookended it yet, yeah.
We're gonna have to look, I think we should still look at the capacity of the junior highs being able to take on the sixth grade campus if that were to happen. To Deanne's point that she preached ever since the day I got on board, there's about 15 different documents that all have different capacities of each campus, which doesn't make any sense to me. One night, we had two presenters, and they both gave us different numbers from Whitley Penn and another one. Obviously, Whitley Penn, it's not their job to go through and count
Right.
seats, but I don't know. It's that. I mean, I'm not going to use David's word, but we all know what it is. It's a little disaster.
And we will take that issue up. We're gonna get it, I'm gonna follow up with that, we're gonna talk about it, and we'll get to the bottom of it. But for tonight, our mission was to address this. I think we've given, any questions there? Well, that's gonna be more strategy, in my opinion, and I think that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to really, I don't disagree with the sentiment there. I think that there's concern, I've voiced that before. So I just think that we do need to address it. Right now is not that time. We need to get a budget before us on Monday, so we can call a vote and.
So are there any major changes that you're going to have to change?
No, everything that you
No,
told
it'll
me,
be-
I'll give it to you in August. So right now, we don't have to change anything. I thank you very much for that, because it's a lot. But I'll be happy to do it. I will work over the weekend to do it if that's what you want me to do. So, but if not, I wanted to kind of, the next step was to show you the teacher, the new teacher hiring pay scale. that we wanted to present to you, and with your blessing of how this is. This is something that LaPorte has not had, and so, and this is something that we know that has been wanted and felt like it's definitely needed to help us attract teachers coming into the district to understand how much, what they can expect. This is the minimum amount on here. So let's just take it for an example. A teacher that has 6 years experience coming into LaPorte, they would start at $63,400. Now, if they have a master's degree, they'd get another $1,000. If they have a doctorate, they would get an additional $2,000. And if they're bilingual, they would get another $4,000 stipend on top of that.
They're bilingually certified, not if they're bilingual.
And their certification and their teaching in that classroom.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. If they were, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify that
Thank
for
you.
people listening.
So, yes, so this is something that we took ours with the starting salary of $61,000, which is what y'all have agreed is going to be for this next year, and we decided on the $400 because as the 3% increase, we wanted to make sure that whatever, with our 3% increase, our new teachers would still make more than this $1, you know, the person with 1 year experience, because they have a year experience with our district.
Yes.
And we want to honor that. So this would make sure that all of those new teachers that had the starting salary of $60,000 next year, they will actually be above the $61,400.
My thought process on the master's degree and doctorate degree increases were the squeezing out of the middle to help that. But maybe this will address that.
Is this something, this is great, can we list this on the website?
Oh, 100%.
I had somebody ask me about this last
Yes.
week, just thinking about coming over.
We wanted you guys to bless it before we
And then also, to take that further, is this something you can have for administrators, principal, counselors, anybody else, like, in addition to the teacher pay?
Normally we don't do, that's not, no other district does that.
Oh, they don't, like, what?
Okay.
Well, I think administrators get paid differently in their years of experience. I mean, it's
Right.
not a set number,
I've
isn't
never
it?
seen one. I don't know why, I just, I've never seen one.
Well,
Here's
you know,
everything.
we do the minimum, midpoint, and maximum as in our compensation plan for professionals, including and administrators. And that is just looking at, in our compensation plan, it talks about how we address new hires in those areas. And so diagnosticians, counselors, those things, it gives you the flexibility to honor their years of experience. And so our midpoint is sort of like saying this would be comparable if you had 10 years of experience in this job. So we would look at a midpoint and then somewhere in between. And so you could even think about dividing it by 10 and kind of slotting people in. But we really do want to be able to be competitive and stay competitive. So it gives us a little flexibility to be able to do that when you don't just hard nose it to
The approved
specific
comp plan is on
amounts.
the website, though, like the
Yes, sir.
So I believe, I mean, even on the, like, your performance review, it lists out, like, different categories, like, 0, like, first year teacher, 0 to 5, 1 to 5, and we get to, we're like pretty much 8 to 10% above the state on all those metrics that you get the administrative pay, and I think we're like on 5 from it. We're like 18 to 20% higher than the state, so that's a selling point, if you're an administrator looking at something like ISD, right? Like,
We've hired a whole lot of them this year. I said we've hired a whole lot of them this year, you know, at the high school and other places.
We did. I mean, lots of years we have a lot of retention, but this was a year of opportunity to get some people in,
Right.
some folks in. But yes, sir.
Yes, with y'all's blessing, we will absolutely, this will be part of the compensation book, which is we're one of the only districts that actually have their entire compensation book on the district website. This will also be on the HR page, very easy for new hires to go and see. They can Google it. That's what I did. I Googled and got a list of all the different districts around us to make sure that we are competitive and broken down.
And on the job positions we post, I think we usually put a salary range on it.
Yes.
And you
Which
might
is
ask
nice to
before
level
about
them.
the total compensation plan, so that employees can see what that,
Absolutely.
what we give towards the insurance.
Yes, and that is, you're
Okay.
absolutely right, yes. We have a list of all the benefits of working for LaPorte ISD, and that is absolutely one of them.
Yeah, so make sure they see the big number, not
Yes.
just 400,
Right.
but the overall.
Absolutely.
add
$4,800 is what
Yes,
I get. Yes,
right,
ma'am.
because when you have that
It's
$4,800,
very,
you're making more here.
it's a big deal.
I know, they may not choose the insurance, but that's up to them.
Well, and the other part of it is, we're a district with 7,200 kids, and we're competing with districts with 50,000 kids. And so that's something to be proud of, I think, for your compensation plan.
Okay, that is all that I had for you. If there's anything else that we can help you with, we're happy to.
Then we're good. Thank you, Stacy. Board, anything else? Well, I appreciate everybody's time, and I think we made a lot of headway. And as Dr. Jackson said, we do have a meeting Monday to vote on this budget for the upcoming year. I appreciate everybody's work.